Good afternoon from England, from Buckinghamshire here, and from Steve in Northamptonshire, a couple of counties away. I think technically there's Bedfordshire, although Milton Keynes then becomes Northamptonshire. So we are still connected, as I used to live up your way, up north,
Oh, yeah.
the whole 55 miles or whatever is further up.
Right. Okay. Yes, it's still Northamptonshire is still Northamptonshire.
Still
Yes.
there. Yeah, jolly good. It hasn't collapsed since I
No,
left. I'm
no,
pleased
no,
to
no,
know.
all right. No,
No,
it's
nobody's noticed. I don't think
nobody's
anybody's
noticed.
noticed that I'm not there anymore.
I'm sure.
Anyway, so we're here to talk about you and your writing,
Yes.
predominantly crime writing. That we will
Yes.
mention your collaboration a little bit later. So, how did you start? How did you get into writing? Because you have an interesting affiliated background as a police officer.
Yes. Yes, I do. I mean, I didn't actually start writing seriously until I'd retired from the force, which was back in 2005. Of course, seems another lifetime ago now, but
Mm.
and I I'd always known that at some stage or other I'd write. I'd dabbled over the 30 years that I was a copper, but it was very hit and miss. So yeah, so I started back then, just again stretching the old grey cells, and started thinking about, oh, what would I like to write about? Well, I suppose it's going to have to be crime, isn't it? But I didn't start writing crime. My first story was a ghost story, actually.
Okay. And did
Um,
did you do anything with that? Did that go anywhere?
um, uh, it, it is actually available on my website, but it's never ever been downloaded.
Right.
So I've added it to an anthology that I'm doing at the moment.
And is that mixed genres or a
It's
crime anthology?
well, it's predominantly crime.
Mm.
So I think there's four short stories about crime within a on the premise of working without fear or favour, which is what a police officer should be doing. But there's
Mm.
also other issues in relation. There's other stories about um, doctors not following their Hippocratic oath. So it's all about
Okay.
working.
Professionals.
Yes, yeah. And then these two ghost stories I've just tacked on the end.
Mm. Oh, well, I love short stories, so you'll have to send me the link and I'll add it to your biography
Yes, yes. Then
on here so we can
I
check it
doubt
out.
I doubt it'll be out before. I'd like it to be out before Christmas,
Mm.
um, but I've got to wait and see what my editor says.
Okay. If you get permission that it's okay
Yes, yes,
thereafter.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
So you
yeah.
were telling me before we started the recording that you're now a full-time. Well, you're now fully retired, because fully retired doesn't necessarily mean or equate to being a full-time writer. Do you find you are able? Obviously, I'm guessing you're able to write more. Are you pretty good at setting deadlines and with yourself? Or I'd like to write a certain amount by a certain time or date.
Yeah, I try to. I do I set a deadline for perhaps doing so many chapters in the next book, or preparing the anthology, and editing that before it goes off to the
Mm.
real editor. Um, um, so, but unfortunately, I'm not very good at keeping deadlines, so it would
Right.
seem. But the mere fact that I've tried, I think, is
Hmm.
I think is sufficient.
Well, I kind of think that even if it's two steps forward and one step back, it's still a step forward,
It is,
isn't
yes,
it?
it
Even
is.
if you don't get to where you wanted, at least you know where you want to get to. I
Yes,
think that's the main thing. It keeps
yes.
you
I know.
motivated.
It is because I know that I'm going to fully retire in the next couple of months.
Mm.
I, I I'm I'm preparing my head for other stuff that I want to do and write. For example, my first book, Blind Murder, is now a screenplay.
Oh,
I've I've written it as a screenplay.
that's
Um,
not easy. I've written one script and it's not
no,
easy.
it wasn't. I mean,
Mm,
I had to get some help from a Hollywood um, script writer. I managed
mm,
to get in touch with a Hollywood script writer
mm,
who had a look at it for me and fiddled about with it. So,
mm.
and that really interesting. I'm quite taken by continuing the old script writing. In fact,
Okay.
I've got a TV series in my head
Yeah.
writing about at the moment as well. So, oh,
Because
it's
script is mainly because I love dialogue and I enjoyed the process of writing the script to a
yeah,
point
yeah,
because it is predominantly dialogue with
yes,
the
yeah,
stage directions.
yes,
But it was the putting in the who says what bit that I found a bit kept stalling me. And so I wasn't able to just literally, I mean, in prose, you just literally just gush.
yes,
And I'm a gusher, as they say.
yeah. So it's all going very well at the moment.
Good, good. And since we chatted last in the real world, you've got book number 3, Crimson Dragon, out,
Yes, yes,
set in Hong Kong and the UK.
mm.
So you have experiences of Hong Kong. I'm
Yes.
guessing you've been there.
After I retired from the police, I set up my own training company,
Mm,
and I managed to pick up a 5-year contract out in Hong Kong, training Hong Kong police.
okay. Wow.
So I was backwards and forwards to Hong Kong between 2011 and 2014, I think,
Mm,
um, which was that's a trial in itself. It's a long way to go. It's a long way to go to the office.
mm,
Let's put it like that.
absolutely.
But the only journey I didn't like was the first journey I made over there when they invited me out to talk about this work that they wanted me to do.
Mm.
And I was only there for a day and then came back again. But they paid for it, so I'm not, I wasn't going
Yeah,
to.
it's a shame you didn't get to explore, while you were there.
Oh well,
You see
well,
it
yeah, yeah. I mean, later on, when I actually got the contract, I'd be out there for a month,
to get
and
time off.
I had a minder that looked after me whilst we were not
Okay.
doing the training, and he took me all over the
Mm.
place. So
Oh,
I got
nice.
to know Hong Kong quite well, really, and not
Mm.
and not the not some tourist places either.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
that's the thing with a native.
and that helped me with writing Crimson Dragon,
Mm.
uh, which was written for my MA as
Right.
my MA.
Yes, yes, at UAE.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, it's good.
So you mentioned your editor. How did you find the editing process? I mean, having written 3 novels, obviously putting together a collection of short stories. This is a sort of two-part question. Do you find now, well, a three-part question actually. Initially, are you a plotter or a pantser or somewhere in between? Do you plan your novels, or do you get an idea and you maybe do an outline and then go with it?
Um, for my first novel, I was a pantster.
Okay.
I didn't, I didn't plot it at all. But the
Hmm.
second one, and Crime and Crimson Dragon, was a bit in the middle. Okay,
Right.
I needed to understand the concept of the story and the end.
Mm.
Not necessarily knowing
Who?
who the antagonist is,
Mm.
having an idea as to the way the story wants to go. So
Mm.
that's really what I've done for the next book. In fact, I've done a lot more plotting of the fourth book
Mm.
than I ever did for the first
Mm.
three.
See, I'm the same. I've found the more I write, the more I actually want to plan because I need to know at least the start and middle, and
Mm,
um, so it helps me thereafter, because I found too often I've got bottom drawer projects where I've got to a certain point and I haven't got a clue where it's going,
yes,
and this bright new shiny object of a new story comes
yes,
out to, and I think, okay, I'll shelve that one and start on the next one. And I
yes.
think if I knew where it was going, whereas now I have my start, a bit of a middle, and the end, and then can fill in a lot
I mean, if I
in
think
between.
I got a bit lost in with when I wrote Driving Dead. I was I got to sort of the middle of the story, and I'm thinking I don't really know where this is going, and it's going all around the houses
Mm,
when I should be, so that took a little bit longer to to produce, and it was
mm,
during a time when I was actually doing the MA as well.
mm,
I suppose really, if I think about it, I should have used that to do my, but they wanted something completely new,
right.
so that along came Crimson Dragon or
Yeah.
Kill Switch, it was first called.
Sorry, what was it
It was
called?
called Kill Switch
Oh, okay.
before it was called
Yeah,
Crimson.
heard that
Yeah.
term. I liked Crimson Dragon. It fits in with
Yes,
the
it
Hong
does.
Kong, I think.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And
and
if you search
crimson being
Crimson
the
Dragon on,
color of crime.
yes, if you search Crimson Dragon on on Google,
Mm.
you get my book, but there's all a load of Chinese um, PlayStation games called Crimson
Oh,
Dragon.
right.
There's not
S-
another book called Crimson Dragon. So
Brilliant. So anybody looking for the game will go, oh,
we'll
there's a
find
book on it. Let's go
yes,
and buy the book.
yes, yeah,
So the next part of this editing question. So the more you've written, do you find when you get to the end that there's less editing to do before you're happy with it?
yes, because I don't know. You're aware of BBC Maestro?
Mm.
I
Yes.
did I did Ken Follett's
Mhm.
just as because it was not crime and it was
Right.
something different.
Yeah, he writes massive
Oh
bricks,
yes, yes,
doesn't he?
yeah, yeah.
End of the world and
And
so on.
yeah, and he acknowledges the fact that he writes bricks, and many doors are kept open by it. Um,
Yeah, my friend in Germany, she loves Ken Follett, and she likes the English. So every birthday and Christmas, she gets a shoebox full of, well, a bigger box than a shoebox, but a box full of books that I
books.
pick up on my travels.
Um, yeah, so he spoke about writing whatever he wanted to write for that particular day, and and he's a guy like me. He likes to write longhand first.
Mhm.
But one of the things that he did, which I thought was actually a superb idea, he only writes on the right hand page of the book of his notebook.
Okay.
So the following day, he goes back to what he's written and he
Mm.
makes changes on the left hand side of
Oh
the
yes.
page. And I
Okay.
thought that was absolutely brilliant
Mm.
to such an extent that I'm actually doing it myself
That's what
now.
you do.
And it really
Brilliant.
works.
Yeah.
So you get to the end of the chapter, you've you've reviewed it the following day, you've
Mm.
made amendments. So by the time you
It's
finished it,
pretty good already.
pretty good already. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that works.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Well,
I'll keep
I can't remember the last time I hand wrote anything really,
right.
and because even my shopping lists are typed up, and we just tick, what we need,
Yeah, yeah,
and so I'm really slow, and because I was a secretary, I type really quickly, so I
right.
either dictate and then I have to check as I go along, because even though I think I don't have much of an accent, it comes up with all sorts of weird and wonderful things. It doesn't seem to like the word I, which is fine if I'm writing third person, but not so great if I'm writing first person. And or I just type on a keyboard. I find it
Yeah,
much quicker.
right.
And so I do that. But yes, a lot of people who write by longhand, then when they type it up, that's their first revision,
It is.
because they
Yes,
revise
and
as they
that
go
does.
along. But
I do find that helps as well. Uh,
mm,
the fact that you know I've done almost two minor edits before I actually get down to using the keyboard, and it
Yes.
was yeah, it's always been the way that I've written.
Mm,
Because when I started to write, you didn't, computers were a thing of the future. They were,
mm,
stuff you see on Star Trek, and that was it really.
mm.
So, and I've always been I always write with an ink pen. I
Okay.
don't write with a biro. I always write with an
Yeah.
ink pen.
Yeah.
Gets you closer to the page.
Right.
If you believe that sort of thing.
No, I like that idea. I like
Yeah,
the idea of using an ink pen.
yeah.
Yeah. I just end up, splurging it all over the page. But so your editor's pretty good with you. Is he or
Yeah,
she
yeah,
fairly fair
yeah, she is.
with you?
Um, she's got a lot of experience. Um, uh, Works out of she's around somewhere in Bedfordshire, if I
Okay.
remember rightly.
Yeah.
But the stuff that I've sent her, I don't ask her just to edit. She does a copy edit for me and a
Mm,
proofread. So
mm,
so and she comes back to me and says, well, this is all right, but really that paragraph needs to be there and this paragraph.
mm,
And I think,
yeah.
fine,
No,
yeah,
I'm the same. If I'm asked to copy edit, I can't. If I see something that I think needs fixing, I can't. Yes,
mm,
I have to, because you an editor wants a book to be as good as it can be. So
yes,
we suggest other things.
yes.
Um,
But she's
yes, I
nice.
did do some.
If it's total crap, then she'll tell me it's total crap.
Yeah.
But I've not really had that sort of conversation with her where I've written complete rubbish. So
Mm.
it's yeah,
Well,
and
I know from your first two, I haven't read Crimson Dragon, but I know from your first two books that they were very well written. So in theory, it should only go up from there.
yes,
Most writers should get better as they go along.
yes, yeah, and I'd like to think that I have. If I read
Mm,
Blind Murder now, if I was to read Blind Murder now, but I don't particularly want to,
mm,
um, I know that there's a hell of a difference between Blind Murder and Crimson Dragon.
mm,
There is so much that I've learned over those three books,
mm,
and obviously doing the MA. But
yeah,
I mean, it's and I when I first started writing, I always thought that it was something that you were blessed with.
right.
Okay, I didn't understand that it was something that you could teach, that
Mm,
something that um, you can better yourself on by doing courses and stuff like that on
mm,
how to become a good writer, basically.
mm,
And I didn't realise, I I didn't, I didn't know that really. My aunt was a school teacher, and she wrote a few books that we found actually after she passed away.
mm.
And I've actually self-published one of her books. Um, and
Let's let the grass grow green.
That's right.
I have on my
Yes,
notes here. Yes.
yes.
So will there be more from her, courtesy of you? Do you think
Yes.
that you found
Yeah.
a few things?
Look. We've got one at the moment that we're trying to piece together because it it came in. It was in a folder which was partially um, typewritten
Mm,
and partially handwritten. So
right.
now um, Ruth had a a good handwriting hand, being a teacher. So
Mm.
it's not as if I have got to try and
Decipher.
decipher it.
Yeah.
Um, so we've got yeah, that's something else that I'm doing, but it's at the bottom of the pile. It's
Mm,
called the Gingerbread Man. Yeah, but yeah, it'll get done, but it's
right.
not a priority
On the list.
on the list. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the long list. Yeah,
Right. So you work with Matador, don't you, up in Leicester?
I do.
Or yeah.
Yes,
And
yeah,
do they come up with the covers? Do they have their
they do.
cover designer?
Yes.
And
Yes.
did you have I mean, obviously you have a choice because it's a self-publishing company, but did they give you various options, or do you tell them what you want? And because
For the
they
first,
do look, although they're different books, they do look as similar. Your font is the same on your name,
yes,
and
yes,
which I think is important, because then people know instantly that it's one of yours,
yes.
even though it's got the name on it. It looks like a series of
And
books.
I, yeah, I had a conversation with their uh, book cover designer on the email, and I actually sent him a picture of the picture on Crimson Dragon
Hmm.
was done by
You
um,
lift it up slightly. That's it.
the picture,
Okay.
back picture on Crimson Dragon
Hmm.
was a photograph that was taken by my good friend in Hong Kong, who happens to be a police officer and happens to be a, 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 a photographer. He's a landscape. He does landscape photography on the side.
Mm.
So I said to him, I says, "Can you get me a good picture?" So he went out into downtown Hong Kong and
Mm.
took one or two pictures, and and then Matador crimsoned it.
Okay. No, it's
Uh,
very atmospheric.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and you're right. I do like the the same font um, to identify. I mean, you look at Ian
Mm.
Rankin's books, or you look at Mark Billingham's books, or
Mm.
Brides, and they're
Mm.
all they're all basically the same. It's just
Mm.
the cover cut picture is different.
Mm. Mm. And I
So
like that your name is. I'm looking up behind you on your bookshelf, and I like the fact that your name comes first.
yes,
It's a confidence, because I think a lot of writers who are producing their first or second or third books have put their name at the bottom, and quite often too small, so people can't see.
mm,
Whereas these are my books, if you have your
yes,
name
yes,
up front.
yes.
Says
Oh,
me, who has my name at the bottom, but hey,
oh, yes, but you're a well-known author. I'm
well, I wish.
I'm
I
I'm still
wish.
I'm still I'm still struggling.
Well, we'll have to meet up for coffee sometime and compare statistics,
Oh, absolutely,
because I
yeah.
think certainly over my books are probably no different, if not less. But
I've
anyway, that's a conversation for another time.
It is, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
There, yes, yes, it definitely another time, yeah.
Yeah, I think working on it is the phrase we use
Yes,
as progressing writers,
yes,
authors of
absolutely.
published books.
But
Yes,
at least
so
I
we're
could turn
we're
around.
working on it.
At least I could turn around and say that. When people say to me, "What do you do?" I can turn around and say, "Oh, I'm a crime fiction author,"
Yes,
and, and then
absolutely.
and that
Yes.
opens a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
In fact, I was talking to one of our younger receptionists when I was at work at the hospital um, last weekend, and she's doing a degree, a law degree at Northampton Uni, and she said, and she just happened to mention she loves crime fiction. I says, "Oh, have you read some of my books then?" And she says, "I didn't know you got any books." I says, "Yeah, I've got 3 crime fiction books out." She said,
Mm.
"Oh, can I read them?" I says, "Yeah, they're on my website. Just blah 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 blah."
Yeah.
And about 10, 15 minutes later, she came up to me and said, "I'm working tomorrow. Are you?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Can you bring your books in?" 3 sales. So
Absolutely. Yes. Well,
yeah,
I think I told off
and
our
another five.
mutual friend, Mike, one of our mutual
Yes.
friends, for because he went somewhere, and I think it was somewhere inane, like a supermarket or something. Got chatting to somebody, and they were interested in his books, and he hadn't got any. I said, "You've always got to have a box of one of each in the back of your car, in the boot of your car,
Yeah,
because you never know. You chat to
absolutely
somebody."
right.
So
Absolutely right.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
I do keep a few in the car. A bit dog-eared now though, but that's
Right. Well, that's half price, or
Yes, yeah.
10% off or something.
Sure.
But yeah, and then make up the rest of the percentage by signing it.
Yes, yes, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So yeah.
So so being effectively self-publishing,
Mm.
um, how do you find the marketing? Is it a slog or
Really difficult.
mm,
Really. I mean, I was listening to an Ali podcast this morning about marketing, and they accept that we're writers. We're not marketing gurus. We
mm,
and it's all about um, well, just trying something different until you find something that and I haven't found it yet, unfortunately.
mm,
Amazon ads, Google,
yeah.
they all put your stuff out there, but if nobody, oh, who's Stephen
Mm,
Collier? Who's he? Oh, not interested.
mm. Well, they say I belong to Brian Cohen's author ad school. It started off as Amazon ad school, where they teach you the do's and don'ts of Amazon ads,
Right.
which is fascinating. And there's like most things, there's so much to it,
Yeah,
to the keywords you use and the categories you target and so on
yeah,
and so forth.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's a minefield of how
Yes.
to do that. But they say, and I think it's a fairly well known fact, that somebody has to see an advert at least 7 times for them to even really take notice.
Really?
Yeah, and
Oh,
I have a list of a nerdy Excel spreadsheet of 500 and something Facebook book groups that I belong to. I mean, who knew that there were that many? But I keep adding them. Facebook keeps suggesting, "Oh, you're in this group. Let's you join this one."
mm,
And so I post on average, and I have a our electronic friend who's on silent at the moment, so that's okay. I can say her name, our Alexa. That although there's one next door, so she may pick up. Um, that every 2 hours it tells me to paste on Facebook. Yeah, I can hear her now through the wall.
all right.
Paste on Facebook that I need to put a new advert on Facebook. So I just copy and paste from my nerdy Excel spreadsheet. And at the moment, it's these author spotlights. I've done a TikTok video,
All
so I
right.
joined TikTok about 6 months ago, and that's as far as I got.
How do you
And
find
I
that?
signed up about a month ago. So I created on Canva my first TikTok video, which has the lovely picture of bookcases either side with a chair in the empty chair in the middle. So I
Yeah.
use that with and so I keep having to change the number because you're now the 25th.
Right.
So I launched it when it was, or created it when there were 20, and then
Right.
updated it yesterday to 24,
Right.
and then now they'll change it to 25.
Right.
So yeah, I post that, a bit of a blurb and the video in a different group every no more than every sort of 45 minutes, I've learned,
Right.
without getting kicked out for 24 hours for
Oh,
spamming.
right.
So I do it every 2 hours to be on the safe side.
Does
And
it
and
work?
it's quite depressing because you get no likes and no comments, but you never know who's seeing it. If
Mm,
somebody sees it at least 7 times and thinks, "Oh, actually, I'll go and have a look," or "Yeah, I'd
mm.
like to be interviewed," but you have to do it. I sort of say to people that it's like having a shop down an alleyway on a high street. Unless you put a billboard outside, no one's going to know that you're there. But
Yes,
it is. It's that's the time consuming aspect,
it is, and
as
I
we
don't,
say.
I don't particularly enjoy it,
No,
um, simply because I don't get that much. You don't know how
no.
much it's done to your book sales. I mean, I can't. Um, yeah, it's been a little while actually since I did any advertising at all,
Mm,
because it's not cheap either. Well, it is cheap, but it's not, if you know what I mean. If you're doing it, you want to do it all the time. It
mm,
gets expensive, and
mm,
I'm a pensioner now. I haven't got much money.
mm. Yes, I'm. My next thing is to do Facebook ads, actual paid adverts,
Right,
rather than copy and paste into groups.
right.
But the thing about Amazon ads that's pay per click, whereas and Author Ad School now does a module on Facebook adverts, which I
Right,
haven't started yet. They've only been doing it a few days, so
right,
I'm going to go in and go through all of those and see what I'm missing out on. But
right.
they say that if you give Facebook $5 a day, it'll spend it, even if nobody clicks on it,
Yeah,
it'll spend it. So Amazon's much fairer in respect. People have clicked because in theory you've caught their attention and they're interested, even if they don't then go and buy it.
yes, yeah,
But,
yeah. But yeah, it's so yes, it is. It's a trial. Let's put it like that. Yeah,
mm, yeah.
something that one has to live with.
One does, yes. I was saying to one of the ladies yesterday that in these spotlights that I used to put things on Smashwords, so there are odd bits and pieces, free little ditties on there. Um, but I love in with Amazon. Do you put your books up, or does Matador do that for you on
Both.
Amazon? Okay. So you'll
So
know that when you upload it, it goes into the ether for
yeah,
24, 48 hours,
yeah,
and then you get an email saying congratulations, it's published. Well,
yeah.
on Smashwords, I don't know if it's still the same, but you go into a queue and you can see it ticking down. So you
Right,
might be 98th in the queue, and then 10 minutes later, you're second, and then first, and then congratulations, you're published, and
right,
you're the top of the home page on smashwords.com for about 5 seconds until the next one comes up,
right.
and
Yeah,
then you gradually chunter and fall off the bottom
yeah,
until an hour later you're several pages in.
yes,
um, but it's still a thrill. Congratulations, you're published. And then my point of saying this was that you think, great, my book's up there, everybody's going to go and rush and buy it, and it's tumbleweed
yes, yeah. It is,
unless you tell them that
yes,
it's there.
yeah. And
Yes.
that's, that is. I mean, I had I had a new website made towards the end of last year by a company called Bookswarm.
Okay.
Now they were not expensive
Hmm.
from the point of view of website design. They were
Mm.
in the bottom quarter of the amount of money that you could spend on
Mm.
different website.
Yeah.
Um, and he actually, I think, has done a good job. I mean, you've looked at the site. What do you think?
I got all your details from Amazon,
Oh,
so I
right.
haven't looked at your website for a while, so that'll be the last one.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen this
Yeah.
one. I'll
So
have to. I
yes,
will. I'll check it out.
it yeah, they did a really good job because all I
Mm,
wanted, whereas I diversified and I was selling police stuff and all the rest of it, all I
mm,
wanted was a site where I could sell my books
mm.
and promote myself as, the greatest crime fiction author since sliced bread.
And what is that still stephencollier.com?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
but
I
no
will. I'll
dash
check
in
it
the
out.
middle. It's
Okay.
stephencollier.com as opposed to
Right. Dash
stephencollier.com.
toilet. Okay.
Yeah.
Radio. Yeah, I'll
So
make
that's
sure
what you use.
that's
You'll
in the
get there eventually.
bio. So next you're working on the anthology.
Yes.
And are you working on the anthology alongside book four? Are
Yes.
you switching from one to another?
I am. Yes. I've got I've I I keep meaning to how to get one day I'm going to do this, but it doesn't turn out like
Right.
that.
No.
So certainly for book four, um, it is it's a case of where I am within the story and what's going on in here in order for me to sit
Mm,
down and continue
mm,
writing it. Over the last over the last month or so, I've concentrated really on the anthology because I needed to tidy up these short stories that I'd written.
mm,
And I'm conscious of the fact that the last book that I produced or published was in 2022.
mm,
Time goes and you just don't know where it disappears to.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you know, if I'm not pushing stuff out all the time, then
Mm.
people aren't, you know, they're not going to. Oh, there's, you know, a
Because
new book.
that's the thing. Somebody will read your book in a weekend and go, "Okay, when's the next one out?"
Yeah.
And a year is still a long time
Yes.
because they'll go off and
They'll find
you know,
somebody else.
unless they follow you on Amazon, in which case they'll be notified when your next book comes out.
Yeah.
But yes, they'll be onto other people's, and
Yeah.
which is who can write really, who can, unless you are a machine, or you have help, to produce more than one or two books a year.
We're not talking about AI, are we?
No, I was thinking of collaborators like James Patterson with
Oh,
Michael Letwidge and Andrew Gross and
right. Okay.
Maxine,
Yes.
whatever her name is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so on. Yes, where they
Right.
co-write, or yes,
Yeah.
thereabouts.
Uh, yeah. I've not considered that at all.
No. The thing is, and then it's even if, I mean, with James Patterson, apparently he gets the idea. Whoever he works with has read everything he's published, or probably everything he's written, and then they go and write it, and then it goes back to him, and he restyles it and edits it and shapes it into his book.
Right.
um, but I think, however torturous we find, and I like the fact that you're working on more than one thing, because, and I do, because if I get stuck with one thing, especially with a novel, I've
Mm.
then got something else to go,
Yes.
and
That's right.
in theory, your subconscious is then still working on the first one while you're on the second one.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so it I think makes for a better pick up
Yeah.
than where you left off. And
Suppose it doesn't help when you've got a third thing coming along in your head as well. You're thinking, oh,
right.
I've got to put this down in writing, otherwise it's going, you know, it's going to disappear completely.
Yeah.
Which happens, you know, you wake up in the morning with a bright idea. By the time you've had a shower, it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
I have notes on my iPhone, and so I came up with a really, what I loved, a title for a new book or a new story. I think it'd have to be a book, and I had to keep repeating it until I was in downstairs in the kitchen, and we have notepads dotted around the house,
Mm, mm,
but I had to go up and dictate it into my phone before I forgot.
yes,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Well, the book four is has got a working title of In a Field of Bones. You know, again, it's the same protagonist that I've got in the first two books.
mm,
So that completes the trilogy.
right. And
Uh,
will it though? Is this the
I
end, do you think?
don't know.
Or right. Well,
I don't.
we like to think that the characters will live on. I see. I love, and we've had this conversation in a few of these spotlights. I love if having a minor character in an early book then becomes a main character, so they get a second life
It's funny you should say
in a
that
later character in a later
because
book.
one of the short stories that is in this anthology is the detective inspector that is in Driving Dead.
Okay.
Now I I had no concept of him, you know, knocking on my door and saying, "Oi, can you put me
Put
in
me
this
back in
story?"
here.
Yeah, so I thought,
Mm.
okay, all right, yeah, you're a nice chap, I'll do it. Yeah,
Oh.
I've put him in one of the short stories, and
Mm.
that was a surprise. I didn't. It wasn't something that was planned at all.
Yeah. And if you had, having now written novels and short stories, if you had to choose one for, see, I'm biased because I love short stories. It's being an editor, I struggle to read novels because I'm forever picking at them. But short stories, especially flash fiction, it's over before I get to really pick too much. If somebody said to you, right, you have to write one format or the other, could you choose between the two?
Um, no, it'd have to be a novel.
Would would it? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I think because I could be quite verbose.
Okay.
Writing a short story, um, which is a mini novel, isn't it? Really, you've still got to have
Mm,
a beginning, a middle, and an
yeah.
end.
Yeah.
you can't expand on the character's backstory or anything like that.
Mm, mm,
So these short stories that are coming in this anthology are really, I suppose, if I think about it, the first time that I've concentrated on writing short fiction.
mm,
So well, we'll see what happens.
mm.
People may not like it, and they'll say,
Watch this space.
yes, absolutely right. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Because some writers feel bereft when they get to the end of a book, especially a standalone,
Mm,
because or what they intended to be a standalone,
mm, mm.
because then they think, oh, I'm never going to see these characters. And the same for readers. You know,
Yeah,
they spend their weekend and they've got to know these characters and love them, and then all of a sudden that's it.
yes, yes,
And especially if it's classed as a standalone. Well, novels obviously should be standalones anyway, but that there's never going to be a
yeah.
next one.
I mean,
Um,
you can read all of mine as a standalone, but
mm,
there's inferences certainly in Driving Dead that
mm,
go back to the first one.
mm,
So yeah, I would never suggest that somebody reads Driving Dead before they read Blind Murder.
mm.
And Crimson Dragon is a standalone anyway. So
Might there be more of those?
I think there might be, yes, but I'm I'm not going backwards and forwards to Hong Kong now because it's a bloody long way. B, it's not cheap because I
Mm,
don't fly cattle class. I'm afraid
right.
I've got to fly business.
Mm,
And oh the yeah, getting back into the country is difficult. Is Getting back into the UK is as difficult as it is getting into Hong Kong. So
right.
so no, I'm not. I don't have any plans for another book
Mm,
involving Lee and Roberts. Ed,
right.
yeah. So
But you
we'll,
know people out there, so
yeah,
should it happen, they can
yes,
consult.
yes,
Yes, Stephen Collier with the assistance of.
yes, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
good
yeah.
plan.
There is always that, but I
Yeah.
say there's nothing in the works at the moment.
Mm. But then if your brain is coming up with new shiny objects, then who are you to deny it?
Well, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. Well, we look forward to. I personally especially look forward to the short story collection.
Okay,
That will be on my Christmas list
right. So
if it's out. If it's out in my Christmas stroke Easter stroke next Christmas list.
yeah. Well, no, it'll be definitely out before Christmas, but not
Okay.
necessarily this Christmas.
Okay. All right. A Christmas list.
Hey, Christmas, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure because
Yes,
we haven't chatted since I've left, since I've moved back down south.
right.
So no, it's a pleasure to see you again. And
We must get together for that.
yes, well, my girlfriend used to run writing group um, up up there,
Right.
and back in the day before Northants Authors. And we haven't spoken about your podcast. We need to speak about your podcast.
Right. Okay.
Yes, you mentioned about another podcast. So do
Yes.
tell us about yours,
Yes.
the name and where to
I've
find
launched
it.
myself into podcasting. It's called the Old Coppers Podcast.
Okay.
And
Available where all good podcasts are available.
yes, well, hopefully, yes.
Mm,
If you pay the right people. Um, so it is available on my website and Apple, I think.
okay.
But I'm still this is all very new, so I'm still working out the best. But I've done four. Um, the first one had nothing to do with police crime or anything. It was about a problem that I had with um, um, eating and my vastly oversized body that so I had to lose a lot of basically I had to lose a lot of weight because I was pre-diabetic and
Okay.
I I read a lot of books about um, nutrition and stuff like that.
Mm.
So, and I didn't realise just how much crap that we have in our processed food.
Mm.
I learned all about ultra processed foods from Michael Mosley, Tim Spector, Chris Van Tulliken, and all those good people.
Mm.
So that was the first podcast that I did
Mm.
because I felt I had to say it. But the second and the third one were crime related, and then I had the last one I did was with Steve Keogh, who is retired detective inspector from the Met Murder Squad, and he does some work for Crime TV. He does some TV stuff there, and he talked about basically his role as a murder detective in the Met, which was fascinating, I got to say.
Mm.
So I'm just about to record my fifth installment, which is about how I go about writing. The process that I use for writing. And then there's another one, which I haven't really thought about yet, but that'll be the sixth. So that'll be the end of the series.
Mm. And
And
then
then,
somewhere in there, there's Graham Bartlett.
yes, Graham is going to
And
be the first episode of the second series.
okay. Yeah,
So
look forward to that because I think he's a consultant on crime writing,
yes, he is.
isn't
Yes,
he?
he is.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
He's,
I had a very brief word with him at this year's Crime Writers Festival in Harrogate.
mm,
He was, he was really happy to assist because we all need as much help as we can get, really,
mm,
don't we?
mm,
Um, so yeah,
yeah.
oh, and of course certainly the chat I had with Steve is on my YouTube channel as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So
See, that's my next thing. One of my next things is to go on YouTube.
oh right, okay,
Is to put these on YouTube and
yeah,
get the.
it's not it's not difficult. I
Mm,
don't go under Steve Collier. I'll go under my media name, which is 528 Media.
okay. I was
Um,
going to ask how that because that was in your biography on Amazon. How
yeah,
whether what significance was that? Yet that wasn't your number. Was that
it
your?
was. If you think about,
Okay.
if you
It
think
just
about
came
it,
to me. I hadn't a clue before then.
if
I
you
was
think
thinking five
about it,
to eight. What happened at 5 to 8? But yeah.
left,
Okay.
you might come up with the color number that I had.
Right. Okay.
Otherwise, too obvious.
Okay.
So yeah,
And that's a brilliant place to end.
it is. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for inviting me,
No, it's
Morgan.
been a pleasure. You're very welcome. And we will be back hopefully in October with a live audience.
All right.
I'm hoping
Yeah,
at least one man and a dog,
yeah.
and where we can start with blind murder, and then another episode with another Q and
Yeah,
A,
yeah.
where I'm going to hide in the background, and then I'm going to let the readers ask you
Okay.
questions about your first book and the first one, and second
Yeah.
book and the second one, and so on. So
Frightening.
okay. I shall be there moderating and raising my hand if the dog can't think of any questions.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Very much. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks again. All right. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.